Welcome to Mantras for Peace. Uh,
Yeah, thanks.
yes, today here with Meenadchi. Um, Meenadchi is I'm just so excited. We've just met. I'm so excited about hearing your voice around the issues that you care about. You have co-written or written a book on decolonizing nonviolent communication. You work in trauma-informed NVC and transformative justice. So
I don't work in transformative justice. It's a practice that it's like part of my politic. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, I'm sure it informs everything that you do in the communities that you serve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this is mantras for peace, and sometimes people ask me, well, why are you asking me? I'm an NVC person, or I'm a scientist, or I'm a whatever. And how is that involved with mantras for peace? But in this project, I really wanted to open up the conversation to a wider scope. And I am interested in your view on how you see the role of words and sounds in your work with nonviolent communication.
What a beautiful question. Thank you. I think words are really important. I think the way that we put them together into sentences really informs. A lot of people will say this, right? I'm not special for saying this, but like our words are spells. So however we put them together, they make the spells of our lives. And so it's important to phrase them as much as possible in ways that are true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that idea of spells and in a way that's true and also like creating the world that we want to live in a way.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. Well, frankly, when I saw, this is just me being honest, when I saw decolonizing nonviolent communication, my flag went up with curiosity about whether you're saying that the tool of NVC needs to be decolonized, or whether you're saying that nonviolent communication is a tool for helping us decolonize everything else too.
Definitely
Can you clarify?
the former.
Definitely the former. Okay, please explain.
Oh my goodness. Where to even begin? Well, I love NVC. It's been a tool that's been a part of my practice since 2002. I wouldn't still be involved in any way, shape, or form with the tool if it hadn't been deeply transformative and supportive to me. I think in doing some of what we just talked about, of like figuring out what my words are and figuring out how to put them into sentences that are really true for me. I think that conventional NVC just holds so many problems that really reiterate a lot of patterns of colonialism and white supremacy. Some people get really angry and activated when they hear that. Other people feel really confused. And I think all of those are really good indicators.
I'm feeling really curious about, can you give an example? I mean, I don't want to derail your train of thought, but
for sure.
I'm curious.
Yes,
about
I can
an example.
a great example. So, because we just issued the second edition of my book.
Fantastic.
And so,
which I can't wait to read, by the way.
cool. And so I revisited Marshall's book, right? And there's a couple instances that I can reference. The first is that, in his book, Marshall talks about a woman. There's an instance of a woman who, I can't remember if she was a teacher. In my mind, I have that she was a teacher. That's how I visualized it. And a young man walked in and said that he was going to sexually assault her. And she used her NVC tools and she de-escalated the crisis, and he wound up leaving just with his wallet, right?
I think I remember that situation from the book. Yeah.
How does it make you feel when you hear it now, or when you hear in your recollection of it?
Well, at the time, when I first read it, it was alive for me. That it filled me with a lot of hope for the potential of, like you said, de-escalating violence and using words to, craft a whole different trajectory of action.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I can recall at the moment. And yeah, right now I think I'm just overwhelmed with curiosity about what you're going to say.
Yeah. I think I probably had a similar response the very first time that I read it.
Yeah.
And since then, since my politics have been shaped more concretely, and I've become a lot of aware of the way systems of violence are oftentimes very implicit or covert, right?
Yeah.
There's also a subtle implication in there that we can talk our harm doers off of the ledge of harming us. There's like a subtle implication that if we just put our words in the right sentence and in the right way, that people who were going to enact violence will reconnect to themselves and they will stop, right? And the thing is that de-escalation tools are so excellent and important, but just in this, it's exactly the same way that a seatbelt will protect someone when they're driving, but a seatbelt will not prevent an erratic driver from crashing into you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that nuance is really important, because in many of the spaces that I've been in and a lot of what I've seen people use the tools of NVC to gaslight people and to say, well, just think about it this way, think about it that way, try to approach them this way. I'm like, nah, bruh, we just need to draw a line in the sand and say that person does not get to come back into space with us until they transform their behavior. And it can also mean we give them tools, right? And equip them and surround them with care, etc. But that's one example.
So, so in the sense that it's not enough.
It isn't.
Let's not stop with disarming the perpetrator.
Or rather, let's not pretend that words alone are enough. That words are a tool, but we also need tangible material change that can be achieved in so many other ways.
Yeah. And I've definitely observed, I haven't participated actively in the official nonviolent communication communities at all, really.
Yeah.
But I've seen how people can use that tool as a bludgeon sometimes to, kind of force their needs upon one another, and that the power dynamics that are at play in any relationship often, pressurize one person to submit into the other person's needs. I also interviewed Jory Mansky for this, and we talked about her work with what they call the vortex of submission. Fascinating dynamics to unpack.
there's lots of, Jory. So Jory is somebody that I am no longer in direct relationship with, because Jory has done things that have been deeply harmful. And Jory was one of my first teachers, and so many of the tools that I use today came from Jory. And so we can live in the complexity of these things. Yeah.
Wow. I'm really appreciating that what I'm sensing from you is that you're really clear about what your dharma is in this way, like pursuing it to its potential.
Please say that again a different way.
That with pleasure. That you're taking the tools and applying them to life as you're living it, and really, my interpretation is that is allowing the tools to be applied to their deepest non-violent potential. If you take any good tool, you can strip away all the other stuff, and you can use it for the maximal good. And it seems like, I don't know if I'm catching your drift rightly there, but I'm feeling a lot of respect, admiration for that. Yeah.
I think I don't know if I'm using the tools deeply enough, to be honest. Like, I'm never sure. And I also, I have a very concrete definition. It's concrete and ambiguous in the same breath. But the way that I define nonviolence is that there's not actually, I don't define nonviolence by a particular action or behavior, but I say that nonviolence can develop under 3 conditions. One is access to a sense of choice, feeling like you can make a move without like these life and death consequences, that you really have true choice.
Yeah.
The second is that you feel deeply connected to your body, and that you're able to communicate your needs in a timely way in which they arrive.
Yeah.
And the third is that you feel connected to the collective body, such that you have an actual felt sense of the impact of your actions and the impact of your behaviors. Because when we have all of those 3 things, we're much more likely to move and speak in ways that keep everybody's needs on the table. And then the third piece of that is acknowledging the existence of colonialism, acknowledging the existence of white supremacy, because we have to find where all of those things live within us, because all of those things interrupt each and every one of those connections. If I don't have a choice about whether I can pay for my housing or not, right? I don't have a choice, then I have to work under capitalism. If I have grown up in a community that is upper middle class, right, then I may not have relationship to people who are lower or working class. I may not have relationship to people who are undocumented. And so then I am going to make choices and do things that put those people increasingly at risk. So unless we're in a very intentional unlearning and relearning practice, the risk is high that we will take any tool and not live within our values.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a very diplomatic way of putting it. To not to not live within our values. Yeah. I know that happens with the mantras and Sanskrit and kirtan, and you're in LA, so you probably have seen a lot of what happens there with mispronunciation, like willful mispronunciation of the sacred words is one of my pet peeves, to put it mildly. And yet, like, just as an example from my world to kind of support your statement, there is that when people are chanting mantras and they feel a sense of connection and they have this aspirational desire to connect through the tool of the mantra, there's this beautiful intention. But if the resonance is not aligned with a sense of cultural respect for the tool, the technique, which is a traditional technique, and there's no, it's either pronounced according to the letters or it's not. There's not really a gray area there. Then there's a gap between intention and action, which is a kind of violence, and we're not living in accordance to our values. And so I'm tuning into how that can also be very much true with the tool of MVC. But I love this. So access to choice, fully connected to the body and connected to the collective body. I wonder, I mean, were you born? This is a sort of rhetorical question because I think I know the answer, but I mean, did you come out this way, or did you have to go through a personal process of colonizing your own? Yeah, I'm glad I could ask you that in a way that made you laugh. But yeah, so how did that happen for you?
It is an interesting question. Can I?
I mean, I'm open to the possibility that you came out this way.
Wow, I'm feeling so many different things. Can I share them?
Please, yeah.
I think I'm noticing grief because I have so many friends who, whether they came out a particular way or not, many of them grew up in families where the values they hold as adults were in alignment with the values that they were given as children. And I don't think that that's the case for me. I mean, there are many things I love about the family that I was born into, and I love so many of my family members. But I think for a lot of us in my family, it's been a long process of unlearning. And it's really still going. I've been having, so kind of just like weaving backwards. It's interesting when you're talking about the mantras being mispronounced. I was hearing or sensing just so much, and you can check me if I'm wrong, but like that for you, there has been so much richness in the mantras as you've received them, that it's really important to hold them with care and to hold them with love as you speak them. Yeah. And something, that I am navigating is I'm really navigating my relationship to Hinduism. I'm named Meenadchi, named after Meenadchi Amman. I have a picture of her on my altar because that is a representation of me. And Hinduism is a deeply fundamentalist, it's used as a deeply fundamentalist genocidal tool, and so what does that mean? When I was looking at your website, it was interesting because there were so many moments of resonance and there were also moments of dissonance. And it was, and I think that's true. I think that's real. I think that's the work. I think that's, where we're in it. But what do all of those pieces really mean? What does it mean when if I say that I am a Hindu, right? And Hinduism is being used as a tool to for genocide and to eradicate people. If you say that you are born American and Indian by spirit, right? What does it mean to subscribe to a nation state that is in active erasure of just so many people? And I don't have those answers, but I think it's important that we ask them and be in those questions.
Yeah. I think I'm there with you in sharing a sense of grief, and concern, and sad, like a real sadness that the I've been drawn to the music and the mantra, not so much the culture and all the other sort of trappings of the culture. Um, and it's, I'm in a difficult position myself as a American born white woman that has a long history with the traditions and the cultures and the techniques and the kind of mandate from my gurus to share them with the global audience as well. But it puts me in a difficult position. And the more I get into unlearning, the more complicated that becomes. And I probably need to erase many of the words that are on my website and recraft those messages, because especially since the pandemic and the whole, just, I feel like so much has been, I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
Probably since I wrote those words, or those words were written about me and I accepted them to go on my page, and I guess I'm navigating all of that myself, and I'm really appreciating the honesty that you're presenting, and being, as you said, I think navigating the complexity of our relationship to the past, the traditions, and where do we want to go? How can we get there?
Yeah.
Do we throw out the baby with the bathwater, as we say, or how do we manage that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think what's coming up is it feels like, I think one question is if we are growing into a different iteration of ourselves, like a different version than the person that we were, how do we remain in right relationship with that person if that person is not in right relationship with the values or future we envision? How do I remain in right relationship with the versions of me that subscribed to various politics or sidelining behaviors? Yeah.
And then how to evolve in right relationship with all the relationships that person has.
Yeah.
That's an increasing tension point for me.
Yeah.
As well, because of the networks, that I have, especially in the United States, also as well, but in India is what's popping in mind now.
Yeah.
But I've been yearning to talk to somebody about all this, because very few people that I know are like willing to look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's either a romantic idealization of the exotic Indian culture that white people are wanting to cling to for some reasons, or it's just like, mean, there's a lot in between, but I'm just saying there's also, the 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 rightfully proud in some ways, people who are wanting to um, really revere the Hinduism and all the gems that are in there. So
Yeah.
thank you for being willing to lay it out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the question: how what has your process been?
A lot of fuck ups.
Decolonizing.
A lot of fuck ups. Super duper fuck ups, causing harm to a lot of people. Having my own heart broken, but really actually causing harm to others. And either through my own skill set or the relationships the people who were invested in me and who told me, don't do that again. We won't tolerate that behavior. We love you. Don't do it. Yeah. So grateful for those.
Yeah. And grateful for the learning. Yeah. Well, well, if I, well, yeah, if I may, I'm also really, I'm curious about your, in your email signature, you claim the pronoun they, them.
Yeah.
And I just, I wonder if you'd be willing to talk about how that decision is also informed with your use of NBC and your whole, I'm curious about your personal process with that.
Can I think about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can decide not to answer, of course, as well. It's too personal.
I think what's coming up is I'm wanting to answer this question with a lot of care. Because for a couple different reasons. So interesting, so many different things. What is present for me? I think what's present for me are the many trans and gender nonconforming beloveds or people who would feel so hurt by this question. Who have spent a lifetime sort of advocating for and attempting to claim sovereignty and dignity over their own bodies and their own gender identity. So what I'm noticing is both the wanting to answer that question, which is really based on the quality of relationship that you and I have in this moment and the quality of willingness that is present in this moment, along with like a piece around I don't have the words for it, but somehow that it was okay for you to ask me this question because there is something here that is present in our resonance that says yes, but wanting to also say it probably would not be okay in 99.9% of other scenarios, you know what I mean? It may not be okay to ask anybody that question. So, and I think I'm like thinking about like who might be watching and things like that. So wanting to just offer that. Because there's a way that when core elements of our humanity, people ask questions about core elements of our humanity, even if we're asking with open curiosity and a desire to learn, that person may be so exhausted of having had to explain just their existence that it becomes dehumanizing, even though that is not the intention.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Do you know what you're sorry for?
I'm sorry for my ignorance in the maybe the lack, the ignorance and lack of consideration for what that question would mean. would mean to you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Can I answer it? Yeah.
I'm also feeling just like completely just delighted and so happy to just meet you and take all of you in. And you seem like this rare, beautiful, amazing flower to me. And I'm just like I'm intensely curious about you as a human being. And so I'm sorry if I really am sorry for probing, but I'm that's I think that's the overriding vibe going on over here.
Let me tell you, if you are excited by me, you have no idea about just the blossom of forest that exists behind me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think for me, I was assigned female at birth. I lived most of my life as a cisgender woman, and I still pass as cis everywhere I go. That's a privilege that I hold, that I move through the world with that degree of safety. I have stopped subscribing to myself as a woman, and shifted into holding my body as mine and holding my body as one that is human and divine and so many other flavors and so many other things. And it's probably like gender is still an ongoing exploration. And certainly some of the things, I mean, there's a lot of different things that sparked that exploration for me. But certainly one of them was taking an honest look at my own trauma histories, and answering honestly for what are the conditions of gender that enabled harm to happen to my body? And what does it happen if I shift from holding my body as that of a woman who puts herself in certain positions into the body of a person who is degendering the way they look at everything, including my body? It feels good for me.
It feels very It sounds very empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so grateful that you were willing to answer to answer my curiosity there, and I guess take the risk of being so open about it. I feel like I have the sense that those words are going to be medicine if we choose to keep this segment in the interview. I have the sense that those words, I mean, like tears are coming to my eyes right now. I have the sense that those words are going to be medicine for somebody who needs to hear that, and needs to feel accepted and safe, and empowered to make that choice for themselves.
That feels nice.
That's my hope. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, in the sense, and for, in the sense that words can be medicine. The more honest we can be with our words, and clear and true, and just put those, like, pulse those vibrations out. And that's very much what the whole impetus of the project is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So whoever you're out there listening to this, giving you a big hug. Yeah. I had kind of two more fun questions that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Before we complete, and one was, if you could wave a magic wand and normalize one thing, what would it be?
I wrote down a very serious answer.
Okay. We have time. You can give me. You can give two. You can give serious and funny one or whatever.
Just now when you were asking the question, I was like, wings. It would normalize everybody having wings.
Wings.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Feels very true. Let's just fly. And then the serious question is the ability to receive call-ins for accountability with grace. Like the ability that when somebody says, you have done this, it has been harmful, to be able to receive that with with a lot of grace and with a lot of ease.
Wow. Damn. That feels really good. Yeah. Okay. Just said, may it be so.
May it be so.
May it be so. And then my other kind of fun question is, if you could give everyone one tool, what would it be?
Okay, same thing. I had a very serious question prepared. And the answer that came right now. So the answer that came right now is a barbecue. Like everybody should have a barbecue and be able to grill. And I think
that is hilarious. Okay.
And I think it ties into the second, because the serious answer was that everybody would have the tool to build relationships beyond their bubbles.
And somehow a barbecue is related.
I think we do that at the barbecue.
I think the barbecue is the melting point. The melting.
We do it at a picnic. We do it with food.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the ability to build your relationships outside of your normal bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That would go a long way. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So may everyone have a barbecue and wings. Wait, I know chicken wings enthusiasts, non-vegetarians are going to see the direct connection there, but we'll leave that out. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
What would your answers to those questions be?
Oh boy, turning it around. I wrote the question, but I didn't really think about my answer. The first thing that comes up for me, okay, so if I could wave a magic wand and normalize anything, I think what comes up for me right now is saying no and not losing connection.
Oh yeah.
Because I've had dominoes falling down in my life and relationships around people, myself not being able to say no. And so I guess that all ties into hierarchical relationships and power dynamics, and all the sticky manipulation that goes on and all of that. So yeah, the to normalize saying no as a celebration. That's what's alive for me at the moment. I'm sure I could think of a whole handful of other things too. Yeah, okay. And then what's the other one? I have it in my notes so I could say. If ever to give everyone one tool, yeah, that's an easy one for me. it would be the ability to instantly self-connect and listen to the voice in their heart. Like to tune in and have the listening ears open to the inner voice, because I know a lot of people and a lot of us, there's a lot of static and congestion in those airwaves, and I would love for everyone to have that ability to be in present moment awareness with listening to their heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been absolutely delightful.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
I'm just delighted and so very, very happy to be able to share your work and your being, and your voice with the extended Mantras for Peace community. Do you have any closing words or wishes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe just closing giggles.
We started with giggles, so we'll send off with giggles then.
Bye.
Shanti.